I don't even know where to start with this, but I guess the beginning makes the most sense. For the past 8 years, I've hosted Christmas at my house. Not just hosted in the throw a potluck and clean up later kind of way. I mean the whole thing, decorating every room, buying matching napkins and candles, cooking a full meal for over 20 people, cleaning up afterward while everyone else is passed out on the couch with pie crumbs on their sweaters. It wasn't always like this. The first time, I actually volunteered. My parents' house was too small. My brother had just moved into a one-bedroom apartment, and I had just bought my house with my husband, Daniel. It was exciting that first year. I wanted to prove I could be the one to bring everyone together. But then the next year, when I hesitated, my mom said, "Well, sweetheart, you did such a good job last time. It just makes sense for you to host again." And that was that. It snowballed. Every year, the expectations got bigger. People stopped asking what I wanted. They just assumed Christmas was at mine. Nobody offered to help with groceries. Nobody pitched in for the ham or turkey or wine. If they brought something at all, it was a bag of cookies from the store, maybe a bottle of soda. Meanwhile, I was dropping hundreds of dollars and spending weeks cleaning and decorating. Here's the thing, I didn't really mind at first. I liked being the host. But over time, it stopped feeling like mine. It became a show I was forced to put on for people who barely said thank you. The breaking point came last year. My Aunt Sharon showed up an hour late, didn't even knock, just walked in complaining about parking. My cousin's kids destroyed my living room. Juice spilled on the rug, ornaments knocked off the tree. I remember standing there in the kitchen, covered in flour and sweat, watching everyone laugh and eat while I kept refilling trays and washing dishes. And then, when everyone left, my mom hugged me and said, "Thank you, sweetheart. Same time next year." I didn't even reply. I just smiled, but inside I felt something snap. So this year, around mid-November, I finally said something. We were on a family group call talking about holiday plans, and I cleared my throat and said, "Hey, I just want to let everyone know, I'm not hosting Christmas this year." Silence. For a second, I thought my phone had cut out. Then my mom laughed like I was joking. "Oh, honey, you can't just spring that on us. We've already been planning around it." I said, "I'm serious. I can't do it this year. I'm exhausted, and it's too much for me." That's when it exploded. My brother immediately started in. "You've got the biggest house. Who else is supposed to host?" My Aunt Sharon said, "Well, some of us don't have the money to throw a big dinner, you know." My mom got quiet, which is worse than her yelling, and said, "I just don't understand why you'd want to break tradition like this." Daniel squeezed my hand under the table, but I felt my face burning. I repeated, "I'm not hosting this year. Someone else will have to figure it out." My cousin muttered something about me being selfish. My mom sighed like I had just ruined the whole holiday season. And since that call, it's been nonstop. Passive-aggressive texts, snide comments in the family chat. My mom leaving me voicemails where she says she's disappointed in me. It's like me saying no once has made me public enemy number one. The thing is, I don't actually feel guilty. I feel angry. Like, why is it automatically my job every single year? Why can't anyone else step up? But here's where it gets complicated. Last night, my brother called me and said that if I don't host, there won't be Christmas at all. No one else is willing, and our parents are too old to manage it. So apparently the entire holiday hangs on my shoulders. And the part that's making me lose sleep is this. If I stick to my decision, my family might actually not get together this year. They're refusing to organize it anywhere else. And if that happens, I know everyone will blame me. I don't know if I'm standing up for myself, or if I'm about to ruin Christmas. And then, today, something happened that shook me even more. My mom showed up at my door without telling me she was coming. She stood on my front porch in a red wool coat I recognized from at least 3 Christmases past, holding a grocery tote like she'd just come back from buying cranberries. The sky was that flat winter gray that makes everything look like a black and white photo. I opened the door, and the breath she let out turned into a pale cloud between us. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, easing past me before I could answer. "I won't take long." Daniel was in the kitchen stirring a pot of soup, ginger and chicken. He makes it when I'm stressed. He raised an eyebrow at me. I gave him a look that said, "Please don't leave me alone with her," and he stayed within earshot. Mom set her tote on the island like it was a briefcase. "I thought we should talk face to face. The group chat gets, well, you know how your aunt is." I said nothing. She reached into the tote and pulled out a planner. one of those embossed ones with monthly tabs, and clicked a pen. I'm not hosting, Mom, I said before she could begin the campaign. I need you to hear me say that calmly. I hear you, she said, nodding like a nurse who knows the shot is coming. But I think you're forgetting a few things. We have your brother's kids to think about. We have your father's back. He can't do the heavier lifting. And your Aunt Sharon's oven still runs too hot. Last year it turned the rolls into little bricks. Those are not my things to fix, I said, and the words felt strange in my mouth because I never talk like that to her. They tasted like something new, firm, but not unkind. She smiled small. I raised you to be generous. You did, I said, and felt my cheeks heat. And I've been generous for 8 years. Which is why you've gotten so good at it, she countered gently. Traditions form because they work. Daniel slid a mug across the island. Tea, he asked my mom. She accepted it and thanked him. He rested his hand near mine without touching. You know what else works? I said. Rotating responsibilities. Asking for help. Budgeting. Potluck. Renting a hall. Mom stirred her tea, the spoon chiming against the ceramic. Renting a hall for Christmas? She said it like I'd suggested we celebrate in a parking garage. I'm trying to be reasonable, I said. Last year cost us nearly $600 for food alone, not counting decorations or replacing the broken tree lights or getting the rug cleaned after the juice incident. Mom winced. Kelsey apologized for that. She sent a text with a laughing emoji, I said, and then asked for my cookie recipe. Mom's mouth pressed into a line. Kelsey's doing her best with the little ones. I'm not asking her to scrub the floors, I said, quieter now. I'm asking for this year to not be at my house. Anyone else can host, or we can make it smaller. I'll still bring food. I'll help, but I'm not turning my home into a buffet line again. She looked at me for a long moment, and I could see the shift behind her eyes, the little gears of negotiation. I suddenly realized how many times we'd danced this exact dance, just with different music. When your grandmother passed, she said softly, I promised we'd keep everyone together. You were the one with space. It felt like a sign. These gatherings, they're all we have. I loved Grandma, I said, and a little lump rose in my throat. The smell of ginger floated up between us, and for a second I was back in Grandma's den, the clack of her knitting needles and a tin of those butter cookies that are mostly air. But even she would have told me to sit down and eat. Mom ran her thumb along the rim of the mug. It's not that you're wrong, she said. It's that the solution you're choosing hurts people. Sometimes boundaries do, Daniel said, and then looked sorry for having said anything. Mom nodded to him. Daniel, you're always so calm. She turned back to me. I didn't come here to fight. I came with a compromise. She pulled a printed page from her planner and slid it across the island. It was an estimate from a catering company, mid-range, not the fancy one my work uses for corporate events. The line items were neat. Roasted turkey slices, glazed ham, 3 sides, rolls, pies, tea and coffee service. Delivery on December 25th at 11 a.m. A tidy total at the bottom. My stomach dropped. You booked catering? Not booked, she said quickly. Just got a quote. I thought, if the cooking is the part that drains you, let's take that off your plate. She smiled like she'd solved a riddle. That way you still host, but without the stress. The cooking is not the only part, I said, fighting the urge to laugh because it bubbled up like panic often does. It's the planning, the cleaning, the setup, the touching every plate in my house while people tell me how tired they are. We'll come early to help, she said. I already told your aunt. She said she and Kelsey can be there the night before. My mouth opened and then closed. You told them? Mom's eyes slid just a hair to the side. It'll be simpler if we don't ask too many opinions. So you told them I'm hosting? Technically, I said we're moving forward, she replied. There's been too much back and forth. It makes people anxious. I pressed my palms to the cool countertop. Mom, she sighed, finally. Everyone needs a plan, and we have fewer than 4 weeks. She said it like she was the general, and I was arguing about parade routes. In the hallway, a draft nudged our little brass bell, and it pinged faintly. I could picture the boxes in the basement labeled lights and table runners in black marker. The boxes I hadn't touched on purpose this year. My shoulders did that automatic tightening they do when I think about them. I'm not doing it, I said. Catering or not, I'm not hosting. Mom's face did that crumpling thing where she tries not to cry. You would really make your father spend his Christmas in a rented room with chipping paint? You would really make your brother try to squeeze us into a place where the dining table touches the couch? It's 1 year, I said. It's 1 year of trying something different. She took a breath like she was going to be the bigger person and then said, softly, I'm disappointed. It still landed like a stone. No matter how old I get, that word is a key that opens the door to guilt. Daniel reached over and touched my wrist, barely, a little anchor. I won't change my mind, I said again, careful. But if it helps, I'll bake pies. I'll bring salad. I'll help set up somewhere else. I'll even cover some costs. Just not in my house. Mom swallowed and zipped up her tote. I wish you knew how scary it is to feel a tradition slipping, she whispered, not looking at me. When your grandmother died, something in all of us went quiet. These gatherings are the only noise that fills that quiet. I know, I said. And I did know. The quiet was real. I could feel it in the way my living room sounded after everyone left. It made me cry washing the last platter some years. She put her planner away. All right, she said finally, with a tone that made my stomach twist, because I could tell she'd chosen a path I wasn't going to like. In that case, I need to be transparent. About what? She set the mug down carefully. We've already printed invitations with your address. Aunt Sharon mailed hers yesterday. Daniel's spoon clanged against the pot. I stared at her. The words slid around before they arranged themselves into a sentence that made any sense. You what? Mom's face was earnest, almost apologetic. It got confusing in the group chat, she said, like this was an explanation. People needed concrete information. We didn't think you'd say no again. I could only hear my heartbeat and the tiny hiss of the burner under the soup. She opened the tote again and pulled out one of the invitations. Heavy cream cardstock, a little embossed wreath, my street name printed in festive red. Christmas Day, 1 p.m. at Maya and Daniel's. My name on the card like a signature I didn't write. Please, Mom said softly. Don't make this a spectacle. Just let it happen. And for the first time in this whole mess, I felt something like anger sharpen into something steadier. I picked up the invitation, looked at it, then looked at her. I'm going to call every single person on this list and tell them the party is not here, I said, my voice calm and strange to my own ears. And if anyone shows up, the door will be locked. Mom stared at me like I'd slapped her. You wouldn't, she said, barely above a whisper. I just might, I said. And right then, my phone buzzed face up on the island with a text from my brother. Mom said you changed your mind. Glad you came to your senses. I told the kids we're going to your place. They're so excited. I looked at my mom. She looked back at me. We both knew there was no version of this that wasn't about to get ugly. Then I guess, I said, I need to start uninviting people. Mom's mouth parted in shock, and before she could answer, the doorbell rang. I don't know what I expected when I opened the door. Maybe a delivery driver or one of my neighbors shoveling early, but it was my Aunt Sharon, cheeks pink from the cold, clutching a plastic tub of homemade fudge. Surprise, she sang, blowing her bangs out of her eyes. I was nearby returning something at the mall and thought I'd drop these off so you wouldn't have to make dessert for the kids this year. Don't say I never bring anything. She swept past me like she owned the place, the air filling with the heavy sugar cocoa smell of her fudge. My mom's face told me she had known, of course, that Sharon was coming. Daniel's eyes met mine over their heads. The word ambush floated between us like a balloon. Daniel, darling, Sharon said, pinching his cheek even though he's 36. Tell me you're making that spinach dip again. Hi, Sharon, he said politely. He looked at me like, do you want me to kick them out? I gave the tiniest shake of my head. Not yet. Sharon plunked the tub on the island and then spotted the invitation lying there. Oh, they came out nice, she said, picking it up. Classy. People love the ones I did for Kelsey's baby sprinkle. Remember Karen? She calls my mom Karen sometimes because of an ancient office story that my mom pretends to find funny. It's not her name. They're beautiful, Mom said. I told Maya we could handle most of the work this time. Of course we can, Sharon said. I already told Henry's parents to plan on early afternoon. The twins don't nap after 3. She popped open the fudge tub, breaking the seal, like the party had already begun. Henry's parents? I said, brain flipping through the family tree like a Rolodex. As in Kelsey's in-laws? I didn't even invite Kelsey last year. She just asked where to park and then showed up late. Sharon threw me a look. Well, they're family now, she said. They deserve to be included. It would be rude not to. Besides, They brought a fruit platter last year. I stared at her. The fruit platter had been sticky grapes in a cracked plastic bowl. Okay, I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady and that polite hostess tone away from my throat. I folded the invitation in half. We're not doing Christmas here this year. Silence. Sharon blinked. Then she laughed a short, disbelieving little laugh. Good one, she said. Tell that to the 28 people who just put your address into their GPS. My mother's eyes pleaded with me. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm stopping something from happening to me without my consent. Sharon cackled like I was being dramatic. Consent? This is a holiday, not a courtroom. Daniel cleared his throat. Let's all take a breath. I turned to Sharon. Please take your fudge, I said gently. I'm not hosting. We can figure out a plan that works for everyone. Maybe Mom and Dad's? Mom's nostrils flared just barely. Your father's back is acting up. Or, I continued, we can rent the community center near the library. I checked the rates. It's actually, Sharon made a face. That fluorescent-lit dungeon? Absolutely not. Henry's parents will think we're cheap. My mouth opened. I cannot believe. Let me put it another way, Sharon said, palms up, voice syrupy. You're good at this. You have the space. Everyone's counting on you. This is what you do. You host Christmas. It's your thing. My chest tightened. I did it for 8 years. That doesn't make it my identity. Feels like you're having a little burnout, Sharon said, patting my arm in a way that made my skin crawl. It happens. But unfortunately, the calendar keeps moving. I stood very still, like stillness might help the words come out in the right order. Sharon, take your fudge, I said again. I'm uninviting everyone. Daniel stepped in then, calmly. We'll send a message to the whole group this afternoon, he said. No more confusion. Mom's face shifted into something flat. If you do that, she said, and the kids wake up on Christmas without a place to go, that will be on you. There it was. The sentence I knew was coming. The one designed to burrow under my skin and set up camp. I swallowed. There is a place to go, I said. There are 25 other homes. There is a community center. There is a restaurant with a private room. There is literally the park, if it comes to it. It just isn't here. Sharon drummed her nails. So what I'm hearing is, you don't want us. That's not what I said. It's what it feels like, she said. And feelings are important. She smiled like she'd won. Anyway, I can't stay. I have a nail appointment. She grabbed the fudge tub and then thought better of it, leaving it on the counter like a flag. I'll see you on the 25th. We'll be early. She swept out before I could form another sentence. Mom hovered, eyes shining with a mixture of fear and fury. Please fix this, she whispered. I cannot manage that many people at the last minute. Then don't, I said. We don't have to have that many people. She shook her head like I'd spoken another language. I'll call you tomorrow, she said, and left, the door's little bell chiming a dissonant note. When the house was finally quiet, my legs went a little wobbly. Daniel pulled me into a hug. I could feel his heartbeat through his sweater. You were steady, he murmured into my hair. I am proud of you. I cried then, not messy, more like a pressure valve finally hissing open. After I breathed, I pulled out my phone and opened the family chat. My hands shook, but I typed. Hi all. There's been a misunderstanding. We are not hosting Christmas this year. Please do not come to our house on the 25th. Happy to help coordinate an alternative. Ideas welcome. I hit send. The dots popped up immediately. Then messages began pouring in like hailstones. Kelsey, wait what? My in-laws already booked a hotel nearby. Josh, Mom said you agreed. Aunt Sharon, we already mailed invitations. It's rude to take it back. Mom, can we please discuss privately first? Cousin Anthony, I took the day off work for the drive. Uncle Rob, who never says anything, I can bring folding chairs. It was chaos. I typed again. I am not hosting. I understand the inconvenience. I'm offering to help plan elsewhere. Then I put my phone face down and let the storm happen without me. For the rest of the afternoon, Daniel and I made a list of alternative options and drafted a plan. A low-cost menu, assignments for sides, a cleanup crew schedule, 2 people per shift, a budget spreadsheet. It felt almost hopeful, putting structure on something that had become so heavy. I emailed the community center. They had a room available from noon to 5 on the 25th. It was bland and beige and exactly right. By evening, my phone had stopped buzzing. The quiet made me nervous. At around 8, Josh called. I steeled myself and answered. So you're serious, he said without hello. I'm serious, I said. But I made a plan. I emailed it to everyone. Got it, he said. Look, the thing is, my place won't fit the whole crew. You know that. And I can't afford to cater. Mom and Dad can't manage. And Sharon's oven situation is real. He sighed. I get that you're tired. I do. But, you're also the eldest. You kind of set the tone. That's not a job, I said. That's an assumption. Well, it's reality, he said. You can either be the hero or the villain. I said dryly. He winced audibly. No one wants you to be the villain. I don't need to be anything. I need a break. He was quiet for a beat. I'll pay for half the food if you host, he offered. It's not about money, I said, surprised and not surprised to feel a little grateful. It's also about my house, my time, my mental energy. How about this, he said, trying another angle. We do it at your place, but everyone cleans before they leave. Non-negotiable. I'll make a schedule. It's not a prison shift, I said, trying not to laugh. He exhaled, frustrated. You're making it hard, Maya. It's been hard, I said, and watched a little snow start to fall beyond the window. You just weren't doing the hard part. Silence stretched. Then he said, grudgingly, what are your ideas again? I told him. To my shock, he didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, I'll think about it, in a tone that meant, I'll ask Mom what to think about it. Okay, I said. Let me know. I hung up and felt, wrung out, like a towel. An hour later, I got an email ping. It was from the community center confirming the reservation. December 25th, Room B, deposit due Friday. I smiled and then froze. The confirmation automatically CC'd the group email I'd put down earlier in the day. Everyone could see it. Seconds later, my phone rang. It was Mom. Maya, she said, voice tight. What is this email? The reservation, I said carefully. So we have a place. There will be no Christmas at a community center, she said, each syllable crisp. Sharon just called me in tears. Do you understand the humiliation? Why is it humiliating? I asked, honestly confused. Because it looks sad, she said. It looks like we can't manage our own home. I'm trying to save us from the part where I collapse in my bathroom during dessert, I said. Remember last year? She went quiet. She remembered. Then, very softly, your father fell tonight. The room tilted. What? He tried to move a bin of decorations from the garage, she said. He insisted. He slipped and his back seized. He's lying on the couch with a heating pad. Her voice thinned. He'll be okay. Guilt took a seat at the table like it had been invited. I swallowed it. I'm sorry, I said. Can I come by tomorrow? We have it handled, she said. Then, sharper, please cancel that reservation. I won't, I said, bracing. If you don't, she said, I will. You can't, I said. It's in my name. Another long silence. Then she said, you're not hearing me, and hung up. I stood there holding the phone, the soup long cold, the fudge on the counter like a joke. Daniel came and leaned against me, quiet. I think, he said finally, we need to expect them to try something. What kind of something? I asked. He looked at the invitation on the counter, my name printed in festive red. Showing up anyway, he said. The next morning, I found out he was right when I woke to a Facebook event titled Christmas at Maya's, created by my own mother. I don't have Facebook on my phone because it steals hours from me when I'm weak, but my friend Anna from work texted me a screenshot while I was brushing my teeth. My living room in last year's flattering glow, tree twinkling, captioned with my address and the cheerful line. Family and friends welcome. Bring a dish if you like. My stomach did a slow, impressed flip. I didn't even know who friends meant. Did we now have an open-door policy for anyone who knew someone with my last name? I called Mom immediately. She didn't answer. I called again. Then I called Dad's phone. He answered on the second ring, voice groggy, back spasms making him sound older. Dad, there's a Facebook event, I said, skipping hello. He sighed. Your mother is, she panicked. Panic is inviting the dog groomer by accident, I said. This is press release energy. He made a weary sound. She's afraid it will fall apart if she lets go. Maybe it should fall apart a little, I said, and then instantly felt cruel. How's your back? Being dramatic, he said, trying to lighten it. I'll live. Ice and humility. He lowered his voice. For what it's worth, I think we could manage something small here. Your mother is stuck on the big picture. Hope flickered. Small like how small? 10, he said. Your brother and the kids. Us. You and Daniel. Maybe Sharon if we must. Potluck. Paper plates. Mom would faint at paper plates, I said, picturing it. He chuckled, then groaned at the chuckle. Don't make me laugh, he said. It hurts. He promised to talk to her, and we hung up. I copied the Facebook link and messaged Mom. Take this down. Now. Then I posted a comment under the event in huge, unambiguous words. We are not hosting this year. Please do not come to our house on the 25th. Within minutes, I had a handful of private messages from relatives I hadn't seen since my high school graduation. People clicked going before I could even blink. 2 posted heart emojis. Someone I didn't recognize wrote, "Thanks, can I bring my boyfriend?" I closed the app before I set my phone on fire. At lunch, I drove to my parents' house. The driveway had a scatter of icy leaves. The front porch still had a ceramic scarecrow from November boxed in by a plastic reindeer, the exact aesthetic problem my mother hates. Holiday overlap. Inside, Dad lay on the couch with a heating pad and a book about bird migration. He gave me a sheepish wave. Mom hovered in the kitchen rearranging spice jars that didn't need rearranging. She wouldn't look at me at first. When she finally did, I saw the shame under the stubbornness, and it made my chest ache even as it made me want to shake her. The Facebook event, I said. She took a breath. I took it down. I blinked. You did. She nodded. Your father asked me to. He was right. It was too much. She met my eyes. I panicked. Relief moved through me, shallow but real. I softened. Thank you. But, she said, the words sliding in like a little knife, that leaves us with nothing. It leaves us with a scaled-down plan, I said, and pulled out my printed spreadsheet like I was in a boardroom. I made assignments. I budgeted. We can do it here, small. 10 people. 2-hour window. I'll help with cooking in the morning and then go home. Her mouth twisted. 10 people? You want me to call Sharon and say Kelsey's in-laws aren't welcome? I want you to call Sharon and say Christmas is intimate this year, I said. It's the truth. Her eyes got shiny again. She will never forgive me. It is not your job to manage her forgiveness, I said gently. She will live. Easy for you to say, she murmured, but the edges of her softened. We worked at the table for an hour, adjusting lists, Dad chiming in like a color commentator. I felt something in me unclench for the first time in weeks. It was not perfect, not even good yet, but it was a shape. I could hold it. Then the front door opened and my brother came in without knocking, cheeks red from the wind, kid's backpack slung over his shoulders like he'd sprinted from a car he couldn't legally double park. He took one look at the spreadsheet and groaned. Oh no, he said. Please tell me you're not doing an Excel Christmas. It's Google Sheets, I said dryly. And yes. Sit. He scanned it, face changing from comedian to accountant. Small here, he said, tapping the heading. That's actually not the worst idea. Thank you, I said, almost dizzy with the rare compliment. But, he added, pointing to the guest list, you left off Kelsey's in-laws. They already booked non-refundable rooms. I raised my hands. I didn't tell them to. They wanted to be near their grandkids, he said. It's not about you. I know, I said, trying not to bristle. It's just not my responsibility to host them. Maybe not, he said. But it is our responsibility not to make enemies of people who love our family. He looked at Mom. You know how Kelsey gets. Mom's knuckles whitened around her pen. We can't host 30, Dad said from the couch, voice mild. Doctor's orders. No heavy lifting, no entertaining armies. Josh rolled his eyes. No one's asking for an army. You literally are, I said. He glared at me, and I could tell we were about to slip back into sibling 12-year-old mode. I breathed. Josh, what if Kelsey and her in-laws do their own thing with the kids on the 24th? Then they stop by here for dessert on the 25th. Staggered. Less crowd. More sanity. He hesitated. It wasn't terrible. I'll ask, he said. Then he looked at me, eyes narrowing. By the way, did you see Sharon's post? What post? I said, dread doing a quiet tap dance in my stomach. He pulled out his phone and showed me. It was a long paragraph in the voice of a martyr, about how some people forget the meaning of family when convenience is at stake, and real love looks like opening your home, even when it's hard. She didn't say my name, but she didn't have to. The comments were a Greek chorus of yes and wows and heart emojis from acquaintances and hairdressers. My face went hot. Mom made a tiny strangled sound. Dad closed his eyes like a man praying for patience. I'll handle it, I said, even though handling it was the last thing I wanted. I'll send her a direct message. Josh put his phone away. Please don't escalate, he said. I won't, I said. I'll set a boundary. He snorted. You say that word like a spell. I typed anyway, thumbs trembling. Hey Sharon, saw your post. I'm not hosting this year. That's not a lack of love. Please stop inviting people to our house. We're planning a smaller gathering at Mom and Dad's with a limited guest list. I'll help with cooking there in the morning. I hope you understand. She wrote back almost immediately. I understand that you like to have control. I understand that you don't care how this hurts your mother. I understand that you want an easy life. I put my phone down and looked at the ceiling like answers were printed up there. Mom pressed her lips together so hard they went pale. There was no perfect move left, so I picked the least bad one. I wrote, I care deeply. I am protecting my mental health and my own home. We can revisit a bigger plan next year. For now, please respect this. She sent a thumbs down emoji. Then, seconds later, we'll see you on the 25th. That night, Daniel and I went to bed early, exhausted by nothing happening in a way that still drained everything. I woke around 2 in the morning to the glow of his phone lighting the room. He was reading something with his brows knit. What? I whispered. He angled the screen toward me. It was a new message in the family group chat. From Kelsey. Since there's so much confusion, we're just going to do a quick stop at Maya's on the 25th to open gifts with the kids. 15 minutes tops. Everyone else can do what they want. It had 4 heart reactions and 2 clapping hands. I stared at the white light on Daniel's palm until it blurred. They're not hearing me, I said. They're not listening, he corrected gently. I exhaled and stared at the ceiling. After a long time, I said, what if we go away? He turned his head, surprised. Away where? Anywhere, I said. A cabin. A motel. Your cousins in Vermont said we could visit anytime. If they want to show up to a locked door, that's on them. He thought about it. It would certainly make the point. I pictured my mother's face when she arrived and found an empty driveway, the invitation in her hand like a broken promise. The thought made my stomach twist, and then settle, and then twist again. I don't want to be cruel, I said. You don't, he said. You're being clear. We lay there in the quiet, and I could feel the idea of leaving crystallizing into something real. I must have fallen asleep, because I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. It was Dad. He never calls at 6 a.m. Maya, he said, voice thick. Don't panic. Your mom fainted. My heart jumped into my throat. I drove to their house in record time, the road still dark and slick. Sunrise was just a suggestion of light behind the trees. When I opened the front door, the heat hit me with that familiar mix of spices and laundry. Mom was on the couch with a blanket, color crawling back into her cheeks, a glass of orange juice sweating on the coffee table. Dad stood nearby like a guard, one hand on the couch back, the other clutching a pharmacy bag. He looked older than yesterday. What happened? I said, dropping my bag, heart still sprinting. I got up too fast, Mom said, wry smile. My dramatic streak continues. I sat on the ottoman, hands shaking. Are you okay? She's okay, Dad said. Blood pressure dip. Doctor on the nurse line told me to give her juice and rest. If it happens again, we go in. Mom pat the couch. Come sit. I did. She reached for my hand. I scared myself, she whispered. A tear slid out of the outer corner of her eye. Not the guilt tear, but the real one. My shoulders dropped. I don't want this to break you, I said. I just want to stop breaking me. She squeezed my fingers. I know, she said. And for the first time, I believed she did. We sat quietly for a while, the clock ticking like a metronome for our breath. Then Mom said, I told Sharon not to come. To our house, or yours. She swallowed. She hung up on me. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. Sharon had been her closest ally and sharpest critic since childhood, sisters who loved like a sport and competed like it, too. Dad cleared his throat. We can manage small, he said again, steadier now. I'll set up the folding table. We'll do paper plates when your mother isn't looking. Mom closed her eyes. I can't hear you, she said, a tiny laugh hiding in the words. But maybe this once. I felt a lightness rise in me, cautious and bright. Thank you. I spent the morning making oatmeal and scrambled eggs and reorganizing their silverware drawer, the kind of silly thing that makes me feel like I'm fixing something. When Mom napped, Dad and I sat at the kitchen table and drank coffee with too much cream, like we used to when I came home from college, and we couldn't sleep because the house was strange without my grandmother's nighttime radio murmuring in the den. She was a stubborn woman, he said, looking at the steam curl from his mug. Your mother gets it honest. So am I said. You are, he said, smiling. Thank goodness. By afternoon, Mom was brighter. We called Josh and told him the new plan. Christmas morning brunch at their place for immediate family only. Us, Josh and the kids. 2 hours, then everyone goes home. No invitations. Gifts to be opened individually with FaceTime later for the extended crew. He fought it, of course, but the words, Mom fainted, did the work I couldn't. I'll break it to Kelsey, he said, resigned. She won't love it. Her in-laws will throw a fit. Tell them we'll stop by with pie on the 26th, Mom said decisively from the couch. It wasn't elegant, but it was possible. That evening, I went home and collapsed across our bed like a damp coat. Daniel rubbed my back in slow circles that made my eyes close before I could thank him. When I woke, it was dark and the room smelled like he'd lit a candle, something with cedar that made me want to cry for no reason. I was bracing and hopeful, and then the group chat lit up again with a message from an unknown number added by Aunt Sharon. Hi all. We'll be doing a casual open house at our place on Christmas since Maya and Karen are taking a break. Stop by any time after noon. We'll have food. Kids welcome. I sat up, heart rate spiking. A second message followed. We'll also do gifts at Maya's at 10 a.m. for those who already plan to be in that area. Quick stop. Don't worry, we won't linger. The smiley face made my vision go bright white for a second. I wrote, no gifts at my house. Do not come to my house. She replied, we come bearing joy, not weapons. I typed, deleted, typed again, deleted again. Finally, this is a boundary. Respect it. She sent a shrug emoji. Then, to the whole group. Everyone, ignore this negativity. We'll see you on the 25th. I wanted to throw the phone into the cedar candle. Instead, I took a breath and called our neighbor, Mrs. Ellis, who has a clear view of our driveway and the opinion of 3 city council members. I told her to expect unwanted visitors on the morning of the 25th and not to engage if people rang her bell. She clucked sympathetically and told me to stand tall. Then, because I finally had the courage, I texted our locksmith. Last year, during Pi, my cousin Anthony casually mentioned how cool it was that we kept a spare key under the garage planter. We'd moved it the next day because that felt too exposed, but I had a sudden, prickling fear I couldn't shake. What if one of those invitations found its way to someone who thought my house was public property now? What if someone still had an old key from when they helped feed the cats once, 5 years ago? The locksmith wrote back and offered to come by the next afternoon. I feel absurd, I told Daniel, gripping my mug. Like I'm preparing for a siege. You're protecting your space, he said. That's never absurd. Later that night, I stood in the hallway and looked at the boxes labeled lights and table runners. Part of me wanted to haul them up, to make everything sparkle, to clasp the familiar ritual to my chest and cave in. Another part of me, tired, steady, kept my hands still. At midnight, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Sharon, private this time. You are making me look like the bad guy. I stared at it. The irony nearly made me laugh. I typed, no one looks like anything. We're adults making choices. She wrote back, I took out a store card to buy a new tablecloth because I thought we were all coming to your place and it would match your plates. Now I'm stuck with it. I hope you're happy. For the first time, something in me softened toward her. Was this mess partly about control? Yes, but it was also about people making plans based on a tradition I had silently resented and silently upheld. I had let the silence do the talking for years. If you have the receipt, return it, I wrote. If not, I will buy it from you. A long pause. Then, forget it, she wrote. Keep your money. A beat later. I miss your grandmother. I read that line 5 times. Then I wrote, me too. No reply came. The next day, the locksmith changed the deadbolt. I held the new keys in my palm, and they felt heavier than normal, like they were weighted with something untidy but necessary. I texted Mom, Dad, and Josh to come pick up their new copies. I did not text Sharon. At lunch, Daniel and I put a deposit down on a tiny cabin 2 hours away, just for the night of the 24th, coming back early the morning of the 25th to make brunch at my parents'. It felt like a compromise, a little escape hatch that still allowed us to show up for the new plan. I could already picture the quiet of a snowy night, the relief of nothing to prepare. I had barely clicked confirm when a new message popped up in the family chat. It was a photo of my front porch, taken from very close. The caption from an unknown number read, "See you soon." My stomach dropped. The photo was from my cousin Anthony, who I had not given the new key to. "Did you give anyone the code?" I asked Daniel. He shook his head immediately. "No." I zoomed in on the photo, hard in my throat, and saw it. The spare key box we keep tucked behind the porch column, the one only my parents and Josh know about for emergencies, cracked open, empty. My first reaction was denial. A quick mental inventory of the times I'd left the key box open by accident. Never. The possibility of the wind doing something acrobatic, ridiculous. The chance that the photo was old. No. I could see the fresh wreath I'd hung last week. Only thing I'd allowed myself to do. I called Anthony. He answered on the third ring, cheerful like we were about to discuss a basketball game. "Hey, cuz," he said. I could hear the faint echo of a garage or a car interior. "Everything okay?" "You were on my porch," I said. "How did you open the key box?" He didn't deny it. He sighed, caught. "Sharon gave me the code." Blood roared in my ears. "How does Sharon have the code?" "She asked your mom last year when we ran out for ice," he said quickly, defensive. "No big deal. She texted it to me this morning and said to check that the key was in there. It wasn't, so I texted the group. Everyone's freaking out. Maybe you should make a new plan." "I did," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "The plan is not Christmas at my house." "Okay, but like," he started. "No," I said, sharper than I meant to. Then, calmer. "Do not come to my house. Do not use codes you were given for emergencies to plan a party. That is a violation." He made an offended noise. "We're family." "Which is why I'm not more furious," I said. "Hang up now, please." I ended the call before he could answer. I shook out my hands like I could fling the anger from my fingertips. Daniel was already at the front door, punching in a new code on the box. "Done," he said. "I'll change the garage keypad, too." I sat on the stairs and let my head fall into my hands. Then I did something I had dreaded. I wrote a long message to the whole group with bullet points, like I was hosting a meeting, because apparently that's the only language anyone respects. Asterisk, "Hi, me again. Please read carefully. The spare key is no longer on the property. Codes have been changed. No one has permission to access our home while we are not present. We will not be home on the 24th. On the 25th, we will be at Mom and Dad's from 9 to 11 a.m. for a small brunch only, guest list, immediate family. If you arrive at our house on the 25th, you will not be let in. Please don't put us in that position. Sharon's open house is her choice. Please coordinate with her if you plan to attend." Asterisk. I hit send and immediately silenced the chat. I put my phone in the drawer and shut it, like that could shut the noise. An hour later, Dad called. I braced. "I spoke with your mother," he said. "She apologized to Anthony for ever giving out the code. She also asked me to tell you she will handle Sharon." "Thank you," I said, relief loosening something between my ribs. "I'll see you at 11 on the 25th, he said, voice warm. "I'll make the coffee." We hung up, and I let myself exhale. Outside, fat snow started to fall in slow-motion flakes, the kind that make the world quieter. Daniel and I packed a small bag for the cabin. A couple of sweaters, the paperback I'd been pretending to read for a month, fixings for hot chocolate. I tucked my grandmother's tarnished little bell into the side pocket like a talisman. It had hung on our tree every year. I wanted her with me. That evening, I stood at the kitchen window watching the neighbor kids shovel their driveway and thought, maybe this would be okay. Not perfect, not easy, but okay. Then my phone buzzed with a new text from a number I didn't know. Again. "Be ready for a surprise visit tomorrow. Don't be mad. It'll be sweet." No name. No context. Just menace dressed as charm. I showed Daniel. He frowned. "Spoofed number?" "Maybe," I said. "Maybe Cousin Kara with the glitter in her veins." He put his arm around me. "We stick to the plan. We go to the cabin. We come back early. We take care of your mom. We go home and watch a movie and eat leftovers. Let the rest swirl without us." "I can't believe it's coming to this," I said, voice small. "It's coming to this because you tried to change a system that was very comfortable for everyone but you," he said gently. "Systems complain when you move them. We went to bed early again, because being stubborn is exhausting. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and set my alarm. I half expected to wake to my door crashing open, but of course nothing dramatic happened. The drama was in the little dings of group chat notifications I refused to check. Morning came cold and bright. We put our overnight bag in the trunk and left the house at 9. The snow had stopped and everything looked clean, like someone had erased yesterday with a white pencil. I felt an unfamiliar lightness in my chest for the first 20 miles. At a rest stop, I turned my phone back on for a second. It pinged like a slot machine, messages stacked on messages. I didn't read them. I texted Mom to say we'd be back early on the 25th to cook. She sent a heart. The cabin was as tiny and perfect as the listing promised. One room with a wood stove, a little kitchenette that looked like something from a postcard, a window framing a stand of pines like a painted backdrop. We put our bag down and just breathed. We played cards. We read our paperbacks. We made hot chocolate and laughed at how sappy we sounded. I took a nap with my head on Daniel's lap and dreamed that my house grew legs and walked away from all expectations. At dusk, my phone buzzed with a call from Mom. I answered, smiling. She didn't say hello. Her voice shook like it had on the morning she fainted. "Honey," she said. "Something happened." My throat went dry. "What?" "Someone dropped off a tree at your house," she said. "A full-size tree. On your porch. In a stand. Decorated." I closed my eyes. For a second, all I could see were the lights blinking behind my eyelids, like tiny stubborn stars. Daniel mouthed, "What?" I put her on speaker. "Who?" "I don't know," she said. "Mrs. Ellis called me. She saw a van pull up. 3 people carried it. She couldn't see faces. They left a note taped to your door." "What does it say?" I asked, even though I already knew the shape of it. She read, voice steadying as she went. "It says, 'We know you're overwhelmed, so we brought the Christmas spirit to you. See you tomorrow morning for presents. 15 minutes. Promise.'" And then 3 names. Kelsey, Aunt Sharon, and Mom paused, wincing. "Josh." The room did a slow, quiet spin. Daniel swore under his breath, then shot me an apologetic look. My heartbeat drummed in my ears. I stared at the little wood stove like it might give me advice. Tomorrow morning was Christmas. We'd planned to be at my parents' at 9. In that same window, the tree on my porch was a lighthouse for every boundary I had tried to build. I took a breath that felt like it went all the way to my shoes. "Okay," I said. My voice sounded like someone else's, calm, precise. "Here's what we're going to do." At the cabin, I couldn't stop picturing that tree on my porch, like a planted flag, claiming my space. Daniel held my hand while I texted Josh. "This is not happening. Door locked. See you at Mom and Dad's at 9. His reply, "You'll understand tomorrow." The words chilled me more than the snow outside. That night, every sound felt like a knock. We drove back at dawn. My parents' house glowed warm, Mom fussing over paper plates while Dad leaned on his cane. At 9:05, Josh walked in with his kids, carrying wrapped gifts. He gave me a look I couldn't read. "We'll make it quick," he muttered. The kids ran to the tree in the corner. For a moment, it felt normal. Then my phone buzzed, a photo of people on my porch. The picture filled my phone screen. Sharon in her giant faux fur coat, Kelsey with her too bright grin, and 2 of the kids bundled in puffy jackets. They were standing right on my porch, arms draped around the Christmas tree they had hauled there, like it was some prize they'd won. At their feet, at least half a dozen brightly wrapped presents, some already damp from the snow. The caption underneath, written in Kelsey's chirpy tone, "Waiting on you." My stomach dropped so fast I thought I'd be sick. "They're at my house," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I turned the phone so everyone around the table could see. The chatter died instantly. Josh's face went pale. He rubbed his jaw and muttered, They just want to keep the tradition alive. Don't take it too seriously." "Not too seriously?" I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. They broke into my key box, dragged a full tree onto my porch, ignored every boundary I've set, and now they're staging a Christmas on my property? That's not sweet, Josh. That's a violation. The kids, mid-bite of pancakes, froze. One of them whispered, "What's violation mean?" But nobody answered. Dad, who had been sitting quietly with his coffee, suddenly spoke. His voice was sharper than I'd heard in years. "Tradition doesn't excuse trespass." The room went still. Josh winced and avoided eye contact. "Look, I didn't ask them to do that. They just got carried away." You know how Sharon is. Yes, I know how she is, I said. And I also know no one ever tells her no. That's how we end up here. Mom reached across the table and touched my arm gently, her eyes worried. Maya, do you want me to call them? Maybe I can calm her down before it escalates. I nodded, my throat tight. Mom picked up her phone and stepped outside, shutting the door behind her. Through the window, I could see her pacing on the porch, one hand pressed to her forehead, the other holding the phone to her ear. At first her face looked pleading, then frustrated, and then, suddenly, angry. She stopped pacing, spoke sharply into the phone, her free hand slicing through the air like punctuation marks. Then her shoulders slumped, her face twisted, and I saw her wipe at her eyes. She came back in a few minutes later, cheeks flushed, mascara smudged. They won't leave, she said hoarsely. Sharon told me. She told me this family has always revolved around Christmas at Maya's, and if Maya refuses, then she's the one who destroyed it. They're standing their ground. They say Christmas is at your house, whether you like it or not. The room went dead silent. Even the kids, who normally squabbled over syrup, sat wide-eyed. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. What do they think is going to happen? I whispered. That they'll sit on my porch long enough, I'll give in. Mom shook her head, defeated. Sharon said they'll wait all morning if they have to. Josh muttered, God, Sharon. But it sounded more like embarrassment than actual anger. Daniel reached for my hand under the table. His voice was calm, but there was steel in it. Then they need to be told in a language they'll understand. If they won't respect words, they'll have to respect consequences. Josh looked up sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Daniel met his gaze evenly. It means if they don't leave her property, we call the police. The words dropped into the room like a brick. Everyone froze. Even the kids stopped chewing, forks hovering midair. Mom gasped softly. The police? You wouldn't do that to your own family. Wouldn't I? I said, surprised at how steady my own voice was. Because right now, they're trespassing. They're not invited. They've been told again and again. And they don't care. What else do you call it? Josh put his hands up, trying to mediate. Okay, let's just breathe for a second. No one needs cops involved. It's Christmas. Exactly, I said. It's Christmas. And instead of spending it together here, peacefully, they've chosen to make it about control. One of the kids whispered, Are the police coming? And Mom immediately rushed to soothe them, shaking her head. But her eyes kept darting back to me, as if silently begging me to back down. Daniel squeezed my hand tighter. This isn't about punishing anyone, he said carefully. It's about protecting Maya's home. That's what matters here. I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. I've been protecting everyone's Christmas for 8 years, I said, my voice shaking with something deeper than anger. This year, I'm protecting myself. Nobody spoke. I picked up my phone again. My hands trembled as I scrolled to the local police department's non-emergency line. My thumb hovered over the call button. Mom whispered, horrified, Maya, you wouldn't. And in that moment, I honestly didn't know if I would, or if I had to. My thumb hovered, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. The room was thick with tension, Mom's horrified stare, Josh's uneasy silence, Dad watching me with a strangely proud expression, and the kids' wide, fearful eyes. I didn't hit call. Not yet. Instead, I lowered the phone and looked straight at Josh. This is your moment, I said quietly. They're your wife's family. Your kids are involved. You need to go there and make them leave. He blinked, caught off guard. What? Me? Yes, you, I snapped. I've spent years carrying the weight of this family. This time, you step up. Go tell them it's over. His jaw tightened. You don't understand. Kelsey will explode if I don't care if she explodes. I cut him off. You are not letting her and Sharon treat my house like a public park. Dad cleared his throat, his voice low but firm. She's right, son. It's time you pulled your weight. Josh's face flushed. He opened his mouth, closed it, then shoved his chair back hard enough it nearly tipped. Fine, he muttered. I'll go. But don't blame me when this ruins everything. He grabbed his coat and stomped out. The door slammed behind him. Silence stretched in the kitchen. Mom sank into a chair, her hands pressed together like she was praying. I never wanted it to come to this, she whispered. I looked at her, softer now. Neither did I. We waited. 10 minutes. 20. Every tick of the clock felt like a hammer. The kids got restless, fidgeting with wrapping paper, asking when they could open gifts. Daniel kept checking the window, his jaw tight. Finally, headlights swept across the driveway. Josh's car pulled up. He got out slowly, shoulders slumped, and came inside without speaking. "Well?" Dad asked. Josh rubbed his face. "They're furious. Sharon said you've destroyed Christmas." Kelsey cried. "They called me spineless for even trying." He looked at me, exhausted. "But they're leaving." They loaded up the gifts and drove off. Relief hit me so hard I nearly swayed. "They'll cool down," Dad said, though his voice held doubt. Josh sat down heavily, eyes glassy. "They said this family will never be the same." I met his gaze, steady now. "Good." No one knew what to say after that. The kids finally tore into their presents, the room filling with paper and laughter, and for the first time in years I sat on the couch with a plate of food and just breathed. No trays, no hosting, no fake smiles. Just my family, smaller, quieter, but finally mine.